Hello, everybody. So sorry we were having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we figured it out. So, yay. Welcome to the No CD Ask an Expert live Q&A. I'm Tracie Ibrahim. I am one of the many therapists specializing in OCD care using exposure response prevention therapy at No CD. And I am also the Chief Compliance Officer. So, welcome tonight. Excited to see everybody and get some questions answered. If you're interested in finding out more, or getting a free consultation, little time with our care team, you can reach out on our website at treatmyocd.com. We do take almost all of the major insurances. We have hundreds of thousands of bodies covered by insurance. We have payment plans. We are in all of the United States and in Australia and the UK and even some provinces of Canada. So wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's get started here. Number one, all right. How do you know the difference between POCD, which for anyone that doesn't know is pedophilia OCD, and pure O, or purely obsessional OCD, with POCD obsessions? Whew, it's like a tongue twister, right? Okay, so how do you know the difference? Well, that's a great question. And what I'd like to say about that is, it's not really about identifying, is this pedophilia OCD or is this purely obsessional OCD? Something really important to know about OCD is that it's all the same, right? The themes we talk about, like pedophilia, harm, suicidal OCD, we have contamination OCD, we have so many different types of OCD, scrupulosity. Those are all just explaining, this is how the content is showing up right now. But if you've had OCD for any length of time, you may or may not have experienced that sometimes themes switch or rotate or a new one pops in. Maybe you never see it again. Maybe you've had one for a really long time. And so what's really important is knowing that we don't have to identify, is this theme or this other theme? What we have to identify is this OCD? I don't really know. So I'm going to sit in the middle with uncertainty, and I'm not going to compulse to try to solve what this really is. I'm just going to sit with the possibility it's any of those things and just sit with it. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. All right. I want to make a hierarchy for suicidal OCD, but want to start real small. Any ideas what to do? That is a great question, and brings me to a very important point. And that is that you really should work with a therapist when it comes to who knows about ERP and building a hierarchy in terms of what is good for you specifically. That being said, you can kind of think for yourself. Everybody's a little bit different, right? What's really small on your hierarchy might be at the top of another person's hierarchy. So you have to kind of examine for yourself, what if I were to rate maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, or least to most, or low, medium, high, what triggers me, right? What do I get triggered when I think about suicidal OCD? What are my smaller triggers and what are my larger fear triggers? So the way that hierarchies work when we're doing exposure response prevention is we find those things, we explore with the therapist kind of what are the smaller things that might not feel as challenging, the ones that are a little challenging but not terrifying, right? And we work our way up, and by the time you get to your higher ones, they're not as scary as they used to be because you've tackled the smaller ones. So what I would say to you, Anna, is think for yourself about what are your smaller triggers. For one person, it might be just thinking about something. That tends to be the lower level thing sometimes for people, are imaginal exposures. Just imagining a situation, sometimes with suicidal or harm OCD, people are afraid of holding sharp objects, or they're afraid of going near certain people while holding a sharp object, or maybe afraid of certain thoughts you have. So it's something to kind of explore and figure out. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. Andrew says, I have health OCD, where I'm constantly worried about my heart health. I've gone for tests and it didn't make it any better. I'm always checking heart rate, and any suggestions for what to do? That is a great question. First thing that I would like to kind of point out is a couple of things that you said in there. So one is, you've gone in for tests and it didn't make it any better. And so you went in for a test, you found out apparently that you didn't have a problem, right? And then everything kind of got worse. It's one thing to go to a doctor or to an appointment once, or to call once and say, do I have a problem? And they check it and then you don't have a problem. It's kind of what you do after that, right? Are you doing a lot of researching? Are you going to more than one appointment? Are you calling more than usual? Are you thinking a lot about, oh gosh, maybe they missed something, they didn't do the right tests? All these things I'm describing are actually compulsions. With things like health concerns, health anxiety, health related OCD concerns, those are the types of things we find that people do that are compulsive, and it makes it worse. Always checking your heart rate, that is a compulsion. It makes it worse. I personally also have OCD. I, at one point, also got really focused on my heart rate, just for other reasons, OCD related, and I had to stop checking my heart rate. So what my suggestions are would be for you is recognize and really learn about what are the things you're doing that are compulsions, because compulsions feed OCD, makes everything louder, makes symptoms louder. It makes our anxiety worse. It makes our entire everything more intense that we don't want. And exposure response prevention therapy, like we do at OCD, teaches you how to face those fears. So you would be looking at, well, I haven't checked my heart rate today, and it may or may not be problematic. I don't know, but I'm just going to sit with it, knowing I already went to an appointment. They already said what they said, and there's nothing else that I can do to change that. I'm not going to solve it. So that would be my recommendation. Stop checking. Stop trying to solve it. Just accept what it is that you learned from going to an appointment and doing tests, and hopefully work with a therapist who specializes in ERP. All right. My son was recently diagnosed by his general practitioner, who works in the field of OCD as well. He gets horrible thoughts that stop him from enjoying life. His thoughts are mainly vaccine related and the side effects. Interesting. So, that is one of those things that is absolutely true of OCD. A lot of people really downplay OCD, or people who don't have it, or who don't know they have it, right? Who make it sound kind of pleasant. Oh, well, everybody's a little OCD. Isn't that a quirky, fun thing to have? And the answer is no, it's never fun and quirky. It's not fun. Even if it's that you keep your house amazingly clean. Guess what? It's torture to keep your house at the level of OCD clean that other people think is amazing. And they don't know the torturous thoughts and feelings you're going through. Not to mention all the other different ways OCD presents itself: suicidal OCD, pedophilia OCD, relationship OCD, all the different ways that it can show up. So, so what I would say is that I would certainly hope that you could get your son to a specialist for treatment if you haven't already. OCD, like I said, is one of those options. And we all specialize in that. It's something we see quite a bit with health anxiety vaccines and side effects. That really kind of spiked too with the COVID um, pandemic and then epidemic that it is now, where people will just kind of became more focused on those things as well. So that's actually very common. So I hope your son gets help. Oh, okay. I like this one. Tony Pep. Hi there. I have a breathing and some blinking OCD. Is there any ERP for this? Thank you so much for your generosity and kind help. You're welcome. Okay. So what you are talking about is something where people pay way too much attention sometimes when we have OCD to normal bodily functions. In our last example, it was heart rate. Checking my heart rate, checking my breathing, blinking. It can be swallowing. It can be breathe, any number of things. So yes, there is ERP for that. We have a number of different ways that we treat those things. We use something called interoceptive exposures for that, where we kind of create a situation for you in which you're like, okay, now I'm having to deal with this situation, whether it's dealing with blinking or breathing or having a feeling like about swallowing. So yes, there is. I can't tell you specifically like go do this. Those treatment really requires a good assessment. If you ever go to seek treatment for OCD, it's really important you get a good assessment. Because if we don't have somebody who is understanding what you are going through and why and how it's presenting, then it makes it very hard to make an accurate treatment plan. So really getting to know somebody like we do in OCD, spending a good amount of time assessing the issues and the OCD and how it's presenting so that we can tailor a treatment that's right specifically for you and the symptoms that you are experiencing. However, in general, as somebody who has also had, a variety of those types of things happen, obviously, of course, the goal is to reduce how often you're doing it, to sit with the urge. I really feel like if I don't blink right now, something terrible will happen, but just not doing it anyway. And, knowing that our body functions whether we're paying attention or not, right? Whether or not you're paying attention to your breathing, you keep breathing. You fall asleep at some point, you're still breathing, right? That's the facts. OCD is trying to give you other ideas and doubts and compulsions to do around that. So hopefully, you can go in and get some help for that. Certainly something we see quite a bit. Hello, Spring. I've been on Luvox, 200 milligrams, and Seroquel. How long do I have to be on meds to fully recover? Oh, goodness. If possible, give an estimated time. I know it depends on the person. Thank you for that question. So not a psychiatrist or a doctor, so I cannot speak about medications. What I will say is this. One thing that I saw here is that you said, how long on meds to fully recover? That I can address. With OCD, recovery looks like managing OCD symptoms that are less intense, they last less time, and the distress you feel about them is less, okay? OCD with medication, ERP, both together, OCD is not curable. And a lot of people, kind of get upset when they hear that. I'm not upset about it, and I'll tell you why. And that is because there are worse things, right? That maybe you can't manage. Things like, I'm not going to say them out loud so that nobody starts thinking about them. But the great thing about OCD, as somebody, again, who has suffered years and years, I've had OCD for over 43 years, believe it or not. And I've been doing ERP, for at least 17 years for myself. And I will say it is a game changer. It is a lifesaver. And you can live a good life managing your symptoms with ERP. So Some people do take medications. That's something you have to go to a psychiatrist to have evaluated. But do understand that in terms of how long does it take people to recover, no matter what they're doing, it always varies. Everybody's different. We have different brain chemicals. We have different, intensities of what's going on. We have so many different things. So sorry, I can't give you an exact answer on that. OCD would like us to have a certain answer, but nobody can give you a certain answer on that, Spring. But you can talk to your psychiatrist and ask any questions you have about medication. Okay, Emily, how do you deal with the new theme and the anxiety it causes? Oh, love it. Great question. Okay. Well, I like to explain to people who I work with OCD in this way, and this might help you. Imagine you have one of these brown plain moving boxes. Okay, there's no writing on it, there are no pictures, just a plain moving box. Okay, and this box is all taped and sealed up. You can't see what's inside. Okay, this is your box that contains OCD, and this is in your head. Okay, you've got OCD in this box. It doesn't change in any way just because the theme changed. So when I think about this box and I think about themes and themes changing, I think about it like wrapping paper or gift wrap, right? Sometimes it's wrapped in pedophilia OCD. Sometimes it's wrapped in health OCD or relationship OCD. And that's just really OCD attacking your own personal values, the things that are important to you as a person, the things you might be, people you care about. And so the way that I deal with new themes is, it's going to sound crazy, but with open arms. Fine. It's the same box. I see you. It's just OCD. You're just painting a new theme on the outside. So when we do ERP treatment for OCD, it doesn't change based on the theme. We do the same treatment. We just have you expose yourself to the fears that you are currently coming up for you. So over time, what you learn as somebody who has OCD in recovery for a long time, a new theme comes, sometimes it tricks you. I recently got tricked into checking OCD. I've never had it in my life. I started driving away and thinking, oh, did I lock my door? Is my garage shut? Oh, no, I don't think I shut the garage. Somebody's going to come in and get my kid and steal my stuff and all these other miserable thoughts. I'm a bad mom because I left everything open, and then I would go back and I checked it. And then I didn't think this is checking OCD. I was just really anxious, like, gosh, this is a problem. And then I did it again the next day. And then the third day I said, wait, I think this is turning into checking OCD. This isn't normal. You don't forget every time you drive away. So that time it was really about, okay, I feel the anxiety. I'm getting all the intrusive thoughts and images of stuff happening. And then here is what I do. I deal with it the same as I deal with anything else. I sit with it and say, that may or may not be true, but I am not going to go back and check because it's going to make it more and more intense every day for me, and I don't want to deal with that. I'm personally a fan of shutting down new themes as quickly as possible because I don't want them. And so I will, as soon as I notice it, go hard. I'm a big fan of using humor. I think that OCD feels so serious and terrifying that if you don't use humor, it makes it really, you don't have to use humor, but to use humor makes it a little easier for me anyway. So that's how I deal with a new theme and the anxiety it causes. I just go, there you are, OCD. Nice new wrapping paper you have on you today. So yeah, that is just one of those insanely fun things OCD does for us, right? All right, Tony. I often ruminate over the fact, what if the stress from OCD and my chronic dizziness condition and my childhood trauma is going to drive me into psychosis or having a psychotic break? I love that. I love that because I've heard that so many times. Not from you, but from people. So that is one of the ways that OCD comes and decorates the little box and says, you might go crazy. That's a common theme, believe it or not. We have some facts about that, like, can OCD mixed with this and mixed with that, and then this happens, and then, the fact is, nobody ever knows if they're going to go crazy. That's what I sit with. And the good news is, if you go totally crazy and psychotic, people who are in that condition don't know and tend to not question it. So, people with OCD question everything and doubt everything. It's the doubting disorder. Again, this is as uncomfortable as it sounds. Sitting in the middle is what we do. I may or may not go into psychosis and have a psychotic break. I'm not doing it right now, but it could happen. And when and if it happens, I'll deal with it. But right now, it's not happening. And right now, I'm not going to try to figure it out. I'm not going to worry about it because it's not happening today. And then what if OCD says, well, is it happening? It might be happening. Maybe you don't notice, Tony. You already went crazy. And then you say, yeah, I might be. I might be crazy, but I'm living my best crazy life. Thank you, OCD, for reminding me. And hopefully you get yourself into some ERP treatment so you can learn some more fun strategies for how we manage through the distressing thoughts, ruminations. I will tell you right now, the fact that you're rumination is a compulsion, and the more you ruminate, the worse OCD gets. So I'm really accepting that you're not going to get a solid answer. Is the answer, which I appreciate. Doesn't feel great. I have a bunch of unanswered uncertainty questions as well. And OCD would love for me to compulsively ruminate. And I don't know anyone who's ruminated long enough and hard enough and somehow got an answer, because OCD doesn't ever settle. So give me more. That wasn't a good enough answer. Are you sure of the answer? But if you're crazy, you don't have answers. Right? It'll just keep making you look for more. All right. Okay, this is a good one here. Caitlin, how do you handle the feeling like you want the thoughts as you recover and then doubting whether it's OCD or not because of that? Fun one. So I was just talking about this the other day with some people. So again, OCD is not very creative or interesting. It keeps saying the same thing to people over and over and over. And then you're like, oh, wow, you're the 1,000th person I spoke to who got the same intrusive thought about this thing or a similar intrusive thought. This happens all the time. I'll give you a good example. Let's say you have pedophilia OCD. And now you're in ERP and you're getting better and you're feeling better. And now you're able to do your exposures and not feel as triggered and not freak out. Maybe you're like, do I like this? Maybe this isn't even OCD. Why am I not getting distressed? I should be so distressed. I'm looking at this or doing that or doing whatever exposures you're doing. And oh my gosh, it's not even bothering me. What's wrong with me? The real answer is what's right with you. It means you're doing good ERP and that you have OCD, who is, again, going to add doubt. Oh, yeah, good job. Good job working on that. Caitlin, sounds like you were just whatever all the time, a murderer, whatever it is that your OCD is telling you that you are or not, or making you question. So what do I do about that? I say, great, I'm going to say those things out loud, and I'm going to say them out loud, and I'm going to own it and make those words less scary. So if it was something like, I'm just going to say with harm OCD, let's say it was, I am going to I'm going to kill my family. Then I would say, yeah, I'm going to kill my family. I love the thought of that. That seems amazing. I'm going to kill them because they're expensive and because, there'd be more space in the house so that I could collect more fun collectibles, something like that. We're kind of lean into it and you're like, yeah, I'm a murderer. I've murdered so many people. Oh, can't wait. Little song about murder, little, whatever it is. I just like to push back on it because when you push back on OCD, sometimes it goes, whoa, I wasn't expecting that from you. And it's backs off a little bit. So that is something that I like to do personally. Somebody is asking what medications are best for anxiety and panic attacks. So exposure response prevention is the best therapy for all of those. In terms of medications, you have to really meet with a psychiatrist to talk about that. If you want to know what types of medications are prescribed for anxiety, OCD, things like that, one place you can look is on the IOCDF or International OCD Foundation website. They have some links there, but above and beyond all of that, it is out of my scope of practice to talk about medications. But yes, certainly you'll want to go and talk to a doctor about that. And yeah, find out more information. Okay. Yep. Here we go. A fellow OCD sufferer, Kaylee. I have been in the loop for almost a month, constantly scared of an unwanted thought or image getting stuck in my head. Well, first of all, sorry, Kaylee, that you are going through that. That sucks, obviously. And I think anyone here who's ever gone through any type of anxiety or OCD understands the loop or the cycle. So here's what I would say about that. Okay. Being afraid of an unwanted thought or image getting stuck in your head. Okay, this is what you said is the main issue, right? We can't control our thoughts. We can't get rid of thoughts. We can't really add thoughts. I mean, you could try. You can say, try not to think about this. Try to only think about that. It may or may not work for a second or two, maybe even a few seconds, but we can't do that. So what you are describing is you are trying to thought block. I'm so scared. Please, now, what can I do? Anything but to get that in my head. And I understand that. And I understand that because I also get intrusive thoughts and intrusive images that are awful. Nothing that I want to frame on my wall and look at. However, I accept in my heart that I have OCD. I remember that these intrusive images and intrusive thoughts and urges don't belong to me. They're not mine. They are created by OCD, and I am just the person who has to receive them. And what I do with them is my choice. That's what you learn in exposure response prevention. You learn that you have a choice, that you don't have to be scared of unwanted thoughts or images. I have images so awful of family members, loved ones, friends, you name it, happens sometimes. And I honestly will say that I'm not afraid anymore. I went through my ERP therapy and now I just go, yeah, that's just part of that. And maybe I'm talking to somebody and imagining, I'm seeing all these terrible thoughts in my head, but I don't get distressed by them because I'm able to kind of radically accept that's part of my OCD. And I just use the techniques I learned in therapy to kind of help get through those moments, choosing my personal values and moving through it. If you or anybody else are interested in finding out more about that kind of treatment, you can come to NoCD, treatmyocd.com. We're on all the socials. And we accept lots and lots of insurances. We have hundreds of thousands of bodies covered by insurance. We're in all of the United States and some Canadian provinces, and we are in the UK and we are in Australia. And we have a lot of therapists waiting to help who understand all of the different types of subtypes and ways this comes up and ways that we can help you through panic attacks and the things that come along with OCD that can sometimes be no fun. And help get you out of that loop, because that loop is exhausting. And we will teach you how to break that cycle. Does health anxiety ever end? I take a specific fear and it's with me for months. I feel desperate because our bodies are always present, so there is not an escape from body sensations or little pains. That's a really great question. Does health anxiety ever end? That is unfortunately a question left for uncertainty. If you can kind of imagine why. I don't have a nobody has a crystal ball to say, this is when it's going to end. It's never going to end. It's going to be better. It's going to be worse. Today, it sounds like it's not in a very good place for you. You have a specific fear. It stays with you for months and you feel desperate because you're feeling the body sensations and little pains. Sounds like the problem is that you pay a lot of attention to your body and pay a lot of attention to each of those little things. Excuse me, the sensations and little pains. And when you do that, the reason it's with you for months and months most likely is because you're probably really focused on it. And so I would imagine that you are ruminating, checking, maybe you are researching online. What does it mean when I have a pain in this area? What does it mean if let us remember that one of the compulsions is checking, and checking includes checking online, researching, trying to find a definite answer. And there is no definite answer. I can tell you that if you do some exposure response prevention and really stick to it, that you will feel less miserable than you do feeling like there is absolutely no escape, because that's not a good place. That's not a good way to feel. So I certainly hope that you get yourself some help there. Somebody said I can't hear anything. I'm sorry. I don't know. I can't help you with that one. Maybe it is your speakers. All right. Daily, I wake up in the morning and I am thinking one thing to the next, images, memories. I even speak out loud like I'm on a podcast explaining solutions while doing my daily tasks. Anxiety or OCD? Well, I don't know. The reason I don't know is because I can't do an assessment on you based on your question. However, how about this? When we have things that we feel like we are obsessing about, and then we do compulsions to try to make ourselves feel better. Sometimes compulsions are called safety behaviors because we're doing something about the distress. So if you are waking up and then you feel like you absolutely must go, okay, first I need to do this. Then I'm speaking out loud and now I'm doing this thing. I don't know. I suggest that you do go and get an assessment to find out more about it. Anxiety and related disorders and OCD are all things that we specialize on at OCD. You can certainly come in and find out. I don't know. I talk to myself sometimes. I say things out loud. I speak to my OCD out loud sometimes. I'm just like, yes, of course I would like to go punch my neighbor 8 times and hit him with a brick, even though he's a delightful person. It's like, but that's just me doing ERP and pushing back on an intrusive thought. Other times I'm just talking to myself out loud, and so for that reason, I can't say why you speak to yourself out loud or why you do those things. But a good assessment can tell you why. All right. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. Chuck is in the cycle, Chuck. I get so much intrusive thoughts that it takes over my life every single day. harm OCD, HOCD or sexual orientation OCD, all of it. I really don't know what to do. I'm consumed in thoughts from when I go to bed to when I wake. Chuck, I am sorry. That definitely sounds like a very terrible OCD cycle to be stuck in. It sounds like what's happening is you're consumed in the thoughts and that you are entangled in the thoughts and that you are not able to push through your day potentially. That is what ERP treatment can do for you. It can teach you how to be getting intrusive thoughts and feelings and things as they go through whatever it's about, whatever the content is, and to just keep going. I happen to have a pretty decently intense level of OCD, and I used to take medications for it, and I don't now. I just do ERP. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm telling you what I'm doing. And my symptoms are well under control, but I get intrusive thoughts triggered all day. I get intrusive thoughts and images. The difference, I'd say, Chuck, is I don't allow it to take over my life and I don't get consumed in it because I know that it's OCD and I know if I focus on it, the more I focus on it, the more lost I'm going to get in the cycle because it is the downing disorder. And the more you get into it, the worse it feels. And it doesn't mean that you never do, any of those things ever. Sometimes I get stuck. I don't realize I'm ruminating for, a minute or a few seconds or a couple of minutes. And I'll say, wait a minute, why are you feeling so awful? And I'm like, oh, you've been trying to solve this thing that's not solvable. So take a deep breath and realize that you don't get to figure this out, even though it feels uncomfortable, even though I'm getting, smashed with intrusive harm thoughts or whatever the thoughts might be. Knowing that I'm going to be in control of my behaviors. I'm going to be in control of my reactions. I'm going to go ahead and get those, but I'm going to kind of blur them out and let them just kind of ride on the side of me. I'm not going to let them be here blinding everything that I do so that I can't go on with my day. I'm going to put them here and I'm going to learn how to get through my day. Yep, intrusive images and all. Terrible intrusive images, terrible intrusive thoughts, terrible intrusive urges, body sensations, all the things. And just go, okay. And again, using things we call cognitive diffusion techniques that you can learn in therapy that help us manage through. I personally use humor as cognitive diffusion, works a lot. So yeah, just one of those things. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Yes, Meg. I've been dealing with sexual orientation OCD for 8 months and really read some triggering things online that I automatically applied to me. Any advice on how to not let myself ruminate over this? Yes. Okay. You are going to read triggering things and you are going to be triggered in the world no matter what it is that your theme is, right? Because OCD is OCD and it attacks the things that we care about. Our OCD themes and the way that they attack us are ego dystonic, or as we kind of explain, what does that even mean? It means it goes against our actual personal values. And that's why it bothers us so much. Right? So if you love your family and now it's telling you you're going to hurt your family, that's really distressing when you don't understand and that it's OCD and that it's not real and that it's not going to happen. It doesn't make you a murderer. It just makes you have OCD and need to manage through distressing thoughts and images, right? And triggers. So how not to let yourself ruminate is really the question, no matter what it is. Rumination is rough. Right? If I say, hey, don't pick up this cup, well, maybe you can sit on your hand and fight the urge. But sometimes we get tricked into ruminations without even noticing. Like I said, it happens to me sometimes. I don't love it either. For me, a really sticky, slippery slope is thinking about parenting. If you would have done this other thing differently, I wonder if everything would be better for the kids now. I wonder if you would do X, Y, and Z, if it would change all of the outcomes. Are you responsible for this thing that's not going well? What could you, right? I could go on for days and then really go deep into like, oh, now you're a bad person because you didn't do the thing. And exhausting. So, what you do with ruminations, no matter what they're about, sexual orientation, OCD, or anything else, identify them first as a rumination. Am I trying to solve something that is unsolvable? With sexual orientation OCD, if I had to take a wild stab at it, because I've worked with OCD for 20 years, it's usually lots of ruminating on, does this mean I'm this thing or not this thing, whether it's gay or bi or trans or straight or whatever, all the options, whatever it is that you're worried about, tends to be trying to get a black or white answer. Yes, I'm this. No, I'm not this. Yes, I like this. No, I didn't like this. Yes, I had a groanal response. Does that mean I want this thing or I am this way? And again, you hear how there's all those doubting questions looking for certainty. We don't have it. The way that we deal with all of things, including sexual orientation, OCD, is sitting in the middle. I may or may not be one of those things. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm whatever, right? Maybe I'm gay. Maybe I'm straight. Maybe I'm trans. In the meantime, today, living my values, this is how my life is set up, and I'm going to roll with it. I'm married, and I have whatever, and I have this kind of partner, and I am interested in these people, or I'm going to be, and so yeah, that's something. I can tell you that for our OCD members, we do have community support groups that are part of that, and we do have support groups for rumination, sexual orientation, OCD, everything probably that you can think of having to do with OCD. We have a lot of groups and support that we offer to our members. All right. Is there, okay, this is a really good question and I appreciate it, AJ. Is there a resource to self-administer ERP? Here's the question, the answer to that. To do ERP really requires first an evaluation to make sure that you know what it is that's going on, an evaluation by a professional who can tell you, and somebody who can help you build a kind of a hierarchy. I mean, there are some good books and whatnot, but I usually caution people against just 100% trying to jump into doing their own therapy. I was trained to be a therapist, specifically to learn ERP. After I became a therapist, I went and took all kinds of additional things to learn about it, to learn what's too much, what's not enough, what to do when different things come up. So I wish that I could give you an exact book on that. I don't have a book that will say this is how to self-administer ERP. But yeah, sorry about that. All right. Oh, thanks, Wendy. That's very sweet. Hi, Tracie. Thanks for hosting this webinar. I always appreciate your advice and perspective. Well, thank you. Oh, and there's Ron. Woo! Need a dose of the taboo, Tracie. Here I am. Glad to see you. I really, really, really appreciate your feedback. All right, we have a few minutes left. Goodness gracious. Oh, yes. Okay. I would like to address this one because I think a lot of people deal with this, Hank. How do I navigate dates, especially ones that could lead to sex? I feel as though I've turned completely asexual. Can't feel anything when I go on dates other than intense anxiety. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. There are a lot of reasons to have anxiety going on a date in the first place, right? Even if you don't have anxiety or OCD at all. It's a situation. There are weird expectations. We don't know what they are. We don't know if we're going to like it, not like it, like the person. Are they going to expect something? Do we want to do things? So the first thing I'm going to say to you, no matter what, is this. Never do anything that you don't want to do. Anything, anytime anybody's going into anything has to do with sex or you always want to make sure you are doing something you want to do and you're not just doing something because somebody else wants you to do it. As far as the anxiety, I would say if you have intense anxiety and that's all you're filling out on dates, it's probably because you have intense anxiety. When you're having an intense anxiety reaction, it's really hard to start to feel a connection or feel anything else toward anyone. So that's something that I would recommend. You kind of go slowly, find somebody who understands that you're anxious. I would imagine before going out on dates, you're probably doing a lot of worrying. Could be wrong, Hank, but if you're doing a lot of pre-worry, as we like to call it, then you're giving yourself anticipatory anxiety. This might be rough. What if this happens? What if it turns to sex? What if I can't handle it? What if I freak out? All of the things, right? And that makes everything worse. That is setting the stage for a whole lot of anxiety. So I would start at before you even get on a date. Address the first part, which is, are you filling up the date with anxiety before you even get there? Look at that. Okay. Do your best to kind of go, hey, I don't know what's going to happen. And if I don't want to do something, I won't. Let me just one moment at a time. If somebody likes you and you like them and they understand anxious, great, then they're going to get through it. I certainly dated people who are anxious, very anxious, and I could see enough that was like, hey, this is like worth finding more about this person. Like, I want to keep showing up. I get that they're anxious, but and over time you get more comfortable the more you get to know people. Dating is anxious, so don't give it too much thought, though, about, does this mean I'm asexual? Does it mean this? It means you're anxious. And being extremely anxious is not a way to fully relax and enjoy a date, right? So give yourself a break. Take it slow. Take it slow. All right. Yes. Okay. Hank, I'm going to answer your part 2 question. Research on psilocybin for OCD. People take it once, think they're completely cured of OCD. There's a lot of research, and there's a lot of research that is valid research. There's research that's not valid research that says it's valid research. There's some valid research that shows different things. There's nothing that shows any one thing can happen that cures OCD. They don't have anything right now that cures OCD. So I know I've read those stories too. I've also had people come to me for therapy that say that they tried it and it made it worse. So had everything from it made it worse. It did nothing. I really, in my understanding and in my research, I haven't found enough valid research that I would be running out doing psilocybin right now. If you want to go be part of a research study to learn more about it, that is a valid research study. Certainly, I'm sure you could go find one, but not something that I would go and do personally. Based on the solid research that I've been reading, I'm not saying that it's not going to be helpful or whatever, but I'm not also saying that it is. There's a lot more research to be done. And so far, nothing cures OCD. Otherwise, I would have already done it. Okay. Yes. Good. I just want to point out Beth's good advice here. For one of our earlier people, Andrew, OCD is the doubting disease. No matter what the doctor tells you, you're not going to believe them. That's true, right? What if they missed it? What if they didn't do all the tests? What if? Oh, yes. Okay, let's see. I think we have time. I would like to answer this one. Is ERP therapy helpful for harm OCD? Yes, it is. ERP is helpful for all forms of OCD. Actually, it's so helpful that I would say I probably do a harm OCD session at least a couple of times a week, to the point that I even have all kinds of sharp objects and things on my desk, knives, all kinds of stuff, because harm OCD is so common as something that we treat. So it doesn't matter what kind of OCD, what your OCD is showing up as, ERP can help it. And yep, there you go. I appreciate this one. Okay, what do I do if I have compulsive staring issues? I'm not sure how ERP would help with that. Love it. I can answer you that because I have helped so many people with staring OCD using ERP. Staring OCD, more recently, you might have heard it called ocular touretic OCD. It's the same thing. Staring OCD is, for those of you who might not know, it is either fear that you're going to look at something inappropriate that you shouldn't look at. Often it's body parts. It can be genital areas. It can be breasts. It can, whatever it is that you're kind of freaking out about, or feeling like you're not going to be able to control yourself and looking at people's various areas and then worrying what that's going to happen. So yes, ERP is the therapy for that. And I have had multiple people at NoCD that I have treated for staring OCD, harm OCD, pedophilia OCD, sexual orientation OCD, suicidal OCD, relationship OCD, you name it, bestiality OCD. There are so many different kinds. It doesn't matter what type of theme you have with OCD. It is all treated the same. It is all treated with exposure response prevention therapy, which is the gold standard therapy for a very long time, has solid research behind it, and we offer it at NoCD. So if you are interested, you can go to our website and get yourself set up for a free little consultation with our care team at treatmyocd.com. You can find us on all of the socials. You can check us out, see what's going on. If you like it, you can join us and we will help you out. So by all means, I hope that this was helpful. If you like this, feel free. You can find me on Instagram. I have more tips not related to NoCD. And NoCD, absolutely, we are here waiting for you. We have no judgment. We have no, it's not surprising to us when you come and say these things. We know we know what you're going through. We can help you. We can help give you those good assessments and get you the treatment that you need. So I hope this was helpful. Probably Dr. McGrath will be back next week. Just a guess. I don't know. It's uncertain. But in the meantime, I've enjoyed being here, and I hope that you found this helpful. Have a wonderful night.